Hey folks, Zefka here. Now, a couple of months ago, so in patch 8.3, before the Shadowlands revamp, I decided to try and hit level cap of 120 in World of Warcraft without killing any NPCs. Now, I knew it would be possible, but could I do it without professions and pet battles to help out? Well, let's find out and get started. First off, let's cover the rules. To begin with, obviously, no killing anything. You can check this under the kills on the statistics window, and this needs to remain 0. Not just kills that grant experience, all kills completely. No pet battles. It's a quick source of experience that isn't really playing the character, not to mention your pets are killing other pets. It's directly gaining experience from something's death. No professions at all. I tried this before with professions, but this time round we're removing this source of repeatable experience. With this, we could just stay in Elwind and mine to 120, but we're not going to do that. No mail from other players or the auction house. This slows down the challenge, but it helps show what this would be like without the extra help of gold, gear or experience potions. Lastly, no use of seasonal quests or daily quests that vary each day, or other permanent daily quests more than once. Throughout the challenge you may notice the Midsummer Fire Festival and the Darkmoon Fair, but no using those buffs. Regarding daily quests, rotating quests like the Pandaria dailies are off limits, but daily quests that are the same every day, such as the Kalawak ones in Northrend, are fair game, only once. So how will we gain experience? Well, there are 4 different sources for us, each to varying degrees. Exploration is not great, but every little helps. The quests are next and will cover most of the experience. While there are many quests and quest chains we cannot complete, because they require us to kill a certain number of mobs, there are a fair few out there just to collect items or talk to others. We're going to be going to almost every zone in the entire game to find all of these viable quests. Last up are treasures and bonus objective areas. Treasures are a big thing later on, but even in Classic you do find the old chest and that will reward experience equal to a major quest. Bonus objectives don't really get started until Legion and they are basically extra quests. So let's talk class and race. Now this run here was my 7th attempt, albeit with slightly different rules. Previously I'd allowed professions but no heirlooms, but this time it's the other way around. No professions but heirlooms are available. Still, with those failed attempts, I'd like to go over all the failed locations as we reach them. But when I first started, I thought I'd try with the worst class for this, Warrior. It truly was the worst, and after spending so long on it only to fail 36 hours in, I decided to go from the best, and my favourite class, Druid. Druid has some major advantages. The first is travel form. Not only does this allow us to move at faster speed and still loot items, it is also completely free. At level 38 it becomes a free epic mount, and at 58 a free flying mount. This lets us save vast gold reserves for flying later on. Even before then we have cat form and dash, great early speed. Next up is stealth. Stealth is a great tool when flying is not available. There are a fair few caves in WoW or no-fly zones, and since we want to avoid combat, stealth is great. Also useful is entangling roots, and later mass entanglement. Now, using them can be dangerous, as I'll explain later, but it keeps at least some NPCs away from what you need. Lastly, instant cast heals. We aren't killing enemies, so we'll spend most of our time in combat running away to try and drop combat, and instant heals are great for staying alive. As for race, by process of elimination, I found the best of the 3. I say 3 because I play Alliance and my knowledge of Horde quests is near 0. Colterians are out because they start at level 20. Ordens need to leave their starting zone, which is not easy, so I went with Night Elves, which turns out to have the second best ability for the challenge after travel form, Shadow Meld. Shadow Meld lets you enter stealth until you move, even in combat, dropping threat. Normally you leave combat by killing a target. We don't have that option, and it makes Shadow Meld a real time saver. So Carry Huggles, thanks Twitch chat, starts off in Shudder Glen and immediately we can't complete the first quest. That's fine though, because there is another advantage to being a Night Elf. My first attempt was a human warrior, and it turns out quests in Goldshire and Stormwind require level 4. Dolinar, the Night Elf equivalent, has no such restrictions, so we do our first quest to open a wardrobe and talk to a dead body. Along the way, I actually remember in this challenge I can use the chauffeur mount. This should help speed things up when I remember I can use it. This then leads to one of the worst quests in the run, but due to how restricted we are, we really need it. Caves are a nightmare before we gain stealth, and here we need to collect 4 items. With Shadow Meld available only every 2 minutes, it's constant dying and a long corpse run to complete this. The rewards are worth it though, because it grants us a bag. You'll notice through the run I spend most of it with only 3 6-slot bags, because we want to save the gold for more useful riding skills. Next up is Azul Mist Isles, the Drano starting zone. You may notice a lot I keep track of stats, namely kills, but here we can see why this challenge can be so tough. Blizzard love to randomly assign you statistics credit. Case in point, apparently Carry Huggles here has already completed 200 quests. Anyway, no caves here, but a good number of quests. From the Exodar we can take a portal to Stormwind, complete the 3 delivery quests, and set up our Hearthstone here before we head to Goldshire. Overall, Elwyn offers a good number of quests, even to take us to level 8 and Catform, along with Dash. Useful for all those times you just can't mount up. You'll notice I have a timer and checkpoints going on in the bottom left of the screen. While I'm not officially speedrunning this, with 6 failed attempts, each lasting over 24 hours, I try to make each new attempt more efficient than the last. With heirlooms this time, we're aiming for sub 30 hours. The last starting zone we have is Dun Morogh, where along the way we get to level 10, and suddenly so much stuff opens up. We get specializations and go resto. Healing is pretty useful when you are being attacked all the time and can't fight back. Lots more zones open up as we're less restrictive. The starting zones I've really designed for levels 5 and after, as all of the level 1 training sections were off limits. We don't have that issue now, but while we're here, let's continue. Continuing, that is, to another terrible early cave. We may have Catform, but no Prow yet. That comes at level 16. We have to hand out Hearthstones to the miners inside, not a bread problem as the attacks do not interrupt handing them over, but they do interrupt looting the relics. This is a constant problem, but these trogs attack so quickly it's really a matter of luck whether you can loot them or not. Actually, this run I got very lucky on many things, and this was the start. Starting zone's done, which means we can open up the Hero's Call quests. Great easy quests to get some golden experience. We're taking all that pop up with a new bracket whenever it opens up, excluding Dustwallow Marsh and Silithus, which we'll discuss later. For now, it's Lochmoden while we're here. Here we encounter some very good quests involving collecting paper and our first gnomes. Gnomes are not violent people and great quest givers for us. Bloodmist Isle is up next, namely to get it out of the way early as it doesn't really lead to any new zones. This is where we finally reach level 16 and gain Prowl, and later Travel Form rank 1 at level 18, just over 2 hours in. Travel Form itself is great, as it gives us swim speed just in time for crossing water. Bloodmist has another advantage, as it's a different style of questing. I sum up zones into 3 styles: Burning Crusade style, Cataclysm style, or a mix. Most zones are a mix, but Burning Crusade style doesn't feature many major quest lines that define an entire zone, so often a single hub you can pick up many quests and pick the ones we do. Next up, it's Stormwind for the human zones. During Westfall, itself a terrible zone due to one major storyline, we hit level 20, which means it's back to Stormwind to turn on War Mode, another reason I'll be Alliance, the juicy experience boost. That is the reason we are near Stormwind for level 20, so we can return as soon as possible. Alas, luckily we don't need to spend gold for riding or a mount, I think, so we keep questing through Redridge and into Duskwood. We are looking at honoured reputation with Stormwind as we will never be able to hit Revered, but as we move through the zone we encounter some good old fashioned violence. This Worgen needs to be beaten down to be pacified, to break out what this channel is all about, cat weaving. This is however a good time to talk about the issue of the no killing challenge. It isn't just the experience and loot you lose, it's the danger. WoW has no saving. If a single critter or weak mob takes an unintended hit and dies, the run is over. We have no area of effect abilities on the action bar, and every time we fight something to weaken it, I'm tensing up. One of the last targets we need to reach is level 24 at least, before this long cave. 24 means entangling roots, and this flesh beast attacks so quickly we cannot complete the quest down here. Now, using roots, or taunts, or anything on an enemy, that matter, is dangerous. Even if it does no damage, it still tags you, so if someone else kills it, it will give you credit. Still, down here, no one is around, so we hand in the quest and with enough gold, we head to Stormwind. Stop is Darnassus, where we don't hand in our quest to learn to ride, and we don't need the riding skill, because we have the heirloom mount and eventually travel form's epic speed, and then flying will grant us the riding speed we need. Yep, not buying it here won't come back to haunt me at all. At Darkshore we discovered two things. The first, why elves can't be shaman. They want to kill every elemental that moves. Seriously, we get quests to kill every type of elemental in this zone. Elves are violent. A common theme here, like many zones, not doing the starting quest can lock out many major quest chains. The next, we encounter not one, but two escort quests. Escort quests may not be great speed-wise, but with healing they are doable, and sometimes without. This first one, the NPC will actually solo every enemy, so we can simply stay in stealth and watch. The second, however, is not strong enough and tends to aggro more than one. It's still doable by healing both him and ourselves. This will keep threat on us, so it is vital we perform no aggressive actions like a melee swing, taunt or root. In the end, with heirlooms I decided to cut this one out. We'll get into quest and level scaling more towards the end of the video, but now it's not really worth it for the time and danger. Next up is Ashenvale, and this probably begins one of the longest quest chains in zones. This really shows the benefit of able to do the core storyline, in this case helping a sick elf child. Alas, it's not without its issues. We encounter an item we cannot loot in combat, and even good quest chains can get hijacked by satyr. And boy, are satyr annoying with their stealth mechanics. Sure hope we don't meet them again. On the whole though, Ashenvale was a good zone. Which is more than could be said for Stonetown Mountains, the first of a couple of zones without any quests. When I mentioned Cataclysm style earlier, this is the extreme. All of the side quests in Stone Talon are unavailable until you have progressed the main storyline, and we can't even get that started. Stone Talon also gives us a split route to go, so we head to the Southern Barrens first. We're only going to do the top half, then it's head back to Stone Talon so we can head south into Desolus. Desolus still features some of the random goblin quests situated in the houses off the beaten path, so more options is good, even if the satyr quests are horrible with all their stealth mobs. We also encounter the only quest I'll ever use Taunt for, protecting eggs until they are picked up by a mother. The mobs here despawn once combat ends, so it doesn't really count as a kill. Worry this time round, however, is we're right outside the Alliance town during the Fire Festival. We don't want anyone else coming in to attack as our taunt has tagged the mobs. Oh, and that's not the only interference the Fire Festival has. Along the way we hit level 38, which means epic travel form, and we're done with the mount forever. From now on, we'll always use travel form as it moves at a cool 100 speed, and Swag Stag also lets us loot items without having to give up on our 100% speed. And it also sees us flying riding, and we're going to need that gold later. Last up in this chain of zones is Feralus. It's down here we get to complete our first quest chain, as determined by the map window, from start to finish, calling various forces of nature, ending with giants. This is also the first time I reached level 40 here, which means I could pick up the 1000 Needles Hero's Call. Except, like Stone Talon, the zone is completely empty without having done the quest first, which involves killing Tauren. So, nope. There's also no way to get across the zone without swimming, so we'll hearthstone back and start the next chain of zones. Our next series of zones are Stranglethorn, which outside a good start doesn't really have much, especially the Cape. At Booty Bay we have two options, Dustswallow or the Plaguelands. We're going to take the boat to Ratchet, which if we haven't picked up on the Dustswallow Hero's Call, grants us a free flight to Theramore. Dustswallow Marsh also got a quest and overhaul in patch 2.3 during the Burning Crusade, so it didn't really get affected by the Cataclysm revamp. Some of its quests are locked behind a quest chain, the Deserters, but we can actually complete that entire quest chain without killing anyone, marking only the second time we've managed that so far. Dustswallow also marks the first time we'll get head and shoulders offered as gear, which isn't really much of a big deal with heirlooms, but hey, another escort quest to do, assuming this guy doesn't... No, stop. Please stop running. Anyway, once we're done here, we head into the south of Southern Barrens to finish off this chain of zones. We now have one last mid-game chain of zones to do, starting at Wetlands. Yet again, here we see the dominance of the gnomes. Wouldn't it be funny if gnomes were the thing that got us to level 120? Arathi may not have been revamped in Cataclysm, but it's limited on quests. Luckily, there is a gnome pirate who wants us to escort him when he doesn't need escorting, and that really saves the zone, as it gets us another fully completed quest chain. Our third, before Hinterlands, which is pretty run of the mill if a bit scary during the quest in the Troll City. Eastern Plaguelands' main storyline is pretty much unavailable, but if you go straight to the Argent Crusade there is a fair bit and we move on to the Eastern Plaguelands. Again, Fiona's Caravan is unavailable, but each tower has a quest for us, including the final tower, a quest rewarding a staff. Pre-heirlooms, you were stuck with this staff for a very long time. Next up would normally be a long flight to the Badlands, but this time I decided to skip it. Badlands, Syrian Gorge and Burning Steppes are all very limited on quests, about an entire level between all three. On top of that, Syrian Gorge is just disappointing. Lunk the Ogre normally helps you with quests that show you ways to complete them without killing, but to even start it, you need to kill. It's the saddest irony, and I'm so sorry, Lunk. So next up is actually teleport to Moonblade, as we're in the endgame zones now. We go through Felwood backwards, and honestly, with how many quests you can do in Felwood, I have a new respect for the zone. Pretty much every hub has something to do. Windspring is also good, at least in the west and north, and here's the reason why we don't take the Silithus Hero's Call. Keeper here offers us an improved version of the quest with much better experience. We finish Winterspring 3 bars short of level 58 and flying. After going back to Stormwind and its riding trainers, we head to the Mage Tower and take the portal to Caverns of Time in Tanaris. Much better than swimming through Thousand Needles. Tanaris isn't great for experience, but it's enough to get us to level 58, and now we get flying. Flying. Oh. So, obviously I never realised that you don't get flight form unless you have at least one riding level, something I obviously never brought. With the Hearthstone on cooldown, it's a long trip before we get flying. After that, we are back to the south of Kalimdor and surprisingly good on Goro. We also head to Silithus to hand in that quest, but that's all Silithus can give us, so we hop on a flight back to Ungoro to turn in all those juicy quests and make it to level 60. But that isn't classic done. Those keeping track will see we only have 2 zones left. Well, 3 because I take a minor detour to complete the only quest in Burning Steppes, and head to the last 2. Swamp of Sorrows, which is good, and Blasted Lands, which is not. But it's still pushing us past the recommended levels, which is pretty important to have as we enter Outlands at just short of level 62, and just 10 hours and 30 minutes in. Despite the first town in Hellfire Peninsula being stuck behind 2 quest chains we can't complete, what I really like about this challenge is looking for the quest hidden in the middle of nowhere. The Goblin Zeppelin, the Goblin outside the Horde Mine, both are better than on the Hole itself. Maybe goblins are just misunderstood. Another notable quest here is marking up some old towers in the southeast. What makes this quest special is the reward, a blue chess piece. The fact its red quality is not the interesting thing, it's that this chess piece, depending on luck, you'd actually be wearing all the way until Battle for Azeroth, that is, if we didn't have heirlooms. But if you want to know why the Pixelite is wearing this chess piece, that is why. Also of note in Hellfire is actually the first dungeon, Hellfire Ramparts. This is one of the reasons we want to reach level 60 by now. It gets us Mass Entanglement. Stealth and Mass Entanglement are pretty useful for a few dungeon quests. A bit of restarting to loot the same early supplies and we're done. That makes it sound simple. All the deaths made it far less so. No idea why this run was so bad at stealth. If I was trying this deathless, I would not touch this quest. Angramage is next, where we managed to complete another dungeon quest, but also our 4th entire quest chain, the Naga Pumps, where all we have to do is investigate and then route the pumps. The zone also marks the last escort quest we could do, but we're ahead of schedule, so I choose not to risk any more of those. What we do however is collect more spods than required to get neutral with Sporriger, which, along with the dungeon quest to collect flowers, lets us access another quest so we can hand in glow caps. With Angramage done, I actually take a slight detour to hopefully speed up the run, because we are close to 67, we head to Blade's Edge instead of the usual Terracar. Alas, Blade's Edge is not great. We're a bit shy on quests. There are some quests, just not that many, but it is important we reach level 67 here. That is the second reason we want to finish Classic as high as possible. It gives us the buffer we need to enter Netherstorm in the most efficient manner. Netherstorm, after a bad zone, is actually pretty good. It's split into islands, and while the main Manaforge storyline is locked away, side quests on every island are available. The real downside of Netherstorm? They're frankly insane cooldown on this quest item. 1 minute. I do not even know why. It's a Hearthstone to Stormwind and then a portal to Shatrath, And, well, we're not doing Shattrath first in Terrakar. Normally questing, I do the druid stuff that leads to Shattrath, but if you head to Alliance Town first, there is a quest that sends you to Shattrath that rewards you the same experience as a normal quest. Speaking of, we need to do a long tour to get friendly with the Eldor so we can purify some altars. First up, let's talk about our first daily quest, to capture a PvP tower. My rule on daily quests, just repeating from the start since it's been a while, is that they are fine to do as long as the daily quest does not rotate. That means stuff like this and the Northrend ones are fine, but not the rotating Mesa Pandaria one. Terrakar is where we hit level 70, shy of 13 hours, but since Northrend and Outlands share a leveling bracket, we're still fine to continue at full pace. After Terrakar and a dungeon quest in the Shadow Labyrinth, Nagrand is next, and well, it's actually a pretty bad zone. Though fun fact, you do instantly get neutral reputation with the Kuranai upon picking up the quest. As you'd expect, Hemet is pretty bad, the Demon Hunter is violent, and we're stuck gathering poop and crystals. One last stop, Shadowmoon Valley, and well, it's actually a bit of a letdown with how little we can do, but it is enough to get to level 72, finish Outlands about 3 hours and 20 minutes after we started. That means up next is Northrend, and it starts off really strong with Burian Tundra, potentially the strongest zone in the continent, even though it is off to a little bit of a shaky start with cultists in a boat with the amazing ability to aggro every guard known to mankind. Panic ensues pretty much any time we're near an NPC or an NPC fighting, my heart races. Burian Tundra however sums up what is good about Northrend on the whole. There are many quest chains like Outlands and many hubs. All of these chances mean every hub is likely to have something for us, even more so in the Tundra. We have working Valiants cheap, and then step forwards in the Farshire quest chain before we even leave the starting area. From here we have some quests with Pater and the animals, the Kalawak and their spirits, the gnomes, well, of course, they're friendly gnomes, what do you expect? The Kirantor and Red Dragons even get involved too, with Koldara and our 5th quest chain taking readings from arcane rifts around the region. 2 levels is a great start this high up. Griblight is not quite as good in terms of the number of quest hubs, but the change can be solid. 1 quest in the west and we head to Winterguard Keep and begin the rescue. Now, you are likely beginning to wonder where my previous attempts failed, and the answer to that is this exact zone and this exact place. My first failed attempt here, with the warrior, was when I got caught off guard by how quickly the guards will attack the Geist. Now we make sure not to aggro any at all. The Winterguard area keeps being good for quests, even though it may look like it stalls out. Luckily, the Arthur Seer quest chain is not bound to the main storyline, and we even get to spend some time braving a mine, making good use of stealth and mass routes as we collect all that we need, even if it is a little scary and most of it is spent wishing Shadowmeld had a shorter cooldown. Now you might think, as we move around the zone, Wormrest Temple would actually be good. There's 4 different dragon shrines to visit. Unfortunately, all the quests result in a need for killing, and it was actually during Chromie's escort quest where Attempt 2 learnt that taunting a mob counts as touching it for kill credit. Nope, it's just a Kalawak daily stealing cubs, which is a totally heroic thing to do. All done? No, because we have a hidden gem in the north, the goblins. Just like Hellfire, these guys are great. Well, besides the guy who wants ore, it's actually the quest chain with Zort and the Ice Giant. Sure, we can't do what the Giant wants, but getting samples and stealing more children, sign us up. To round off the zone, we head to Frostmourne Cavern to finish off the Seer's Arthur's quest chain, and complete our 6th entire storyline. This is the last entire storyline you'll see the credit box for, so if you're wondering how many you can complete without killing anything, 6 is your answer. That's it for Dragonblight, so Grizzly Hills is next, well, kind of. We start Grizzly Hills, grab a few bits, including some of the often missed Venture Code quests in the south, but stop short of turning them in before we head to Howling Fjord. Howling Fjord is a kind of circle, with our first stop being at the dig site to pick up some quests, one we can do now and a poop collection for later. Westfall Keep is next up, again with 2 quests. Cannonballs a bit now and a bit later, and the Kalawak quest chain, which we're going to start now. As with a lot of our quests recently, to save time, we're going to do the turn-ins for this Kalawak chain later, so we plunder graves and head to Valgard, where we have yet another dungeon quest. Well, it should have been now, with one of the worst luck for items, and an underwater quest that makes me yet again proud to be a druid. Next up in our tour of the Ford is Explorers League, where we help them collect some goodies and train up a miniature version of our flight form to take for a spin. and make, well, a mistake and pull a hawk and panic. We're north next, picking up feathers, captured animals, and skillfully stirring bats to poop, then looting said poop and fleeing before the angry bats attack us. It's amazing the skills you gain when you're trying to avoid fighting stuff. Last up is handing in those cannonballs and continuing on with the Kalawak, all the way to the pirates, and we help them out for a bit as well. Maybe more than you'd think for a bunch of pirates. Then it's a flight back to resume Grizzly Hills. Grizzly Hills has yet another number of quest chains in the zone that we can really get stuck into, and very quickly we reach level 80. Like before, we're not done, not by a long shot. So we keep at it, starting the walking quest line. Bud's Grand storyline and a bit of Drakuru's is next. More Venture Co dailies, this time in the north, and we move subsequently less impressive eastern side of the zone. That's not to say the east is bad, you just have to find some beer and food collection, and some troll remains, but that is less fun. Well, everything is more fun than collecting the horses. Something about this quest is just so tedious. Maybe it's the fact there is no sprint button on the horse action bar. Maybe it's the fact that you're used to flying at this point. Whatever it is, we end Grizzly Hills at level 81, path back to Stormwind, then take the portal to Dalaran as we need to pick up quests for our next zones. We're going to be going west to east again. You might think the first half of Northrend was so good, the second half will be the same. Well, no. Sholazar Basin has 3 major storylines, all pretty much instantly locked behind killing. We can help out the gnome, of course, he's a gnome, and therefore great for this challenge, but besides him we have literally the worst quest that has ever been put underwater. What is with this drop rate? It is awful. Every failed spawn spawns an ad. Just once across my 7 goes. I would love it to be like dropping the first 3, just once. Well, I won't make you suffer anymore, or maybe I should. Everyone should hate this quest as much as I do. Next up is Icecrown, and its major starting storylines for the Death Knights and Argent Crusade are off limits, but there is a little sneaky something extra we can do, the endgame. The Argent tourney is ready for us, and jousting is our thing. Shame that's it, but hey, don't sleep on the endgame content for this challenge. Storm Peaks is again a zone with major storylines, but at least the dwarves let us start theirs before moving on to folks who have proven themselves to be second only to the gnomes since the Burning Crusade. The Goblins of K9. Loot food, loot boxes, loot junk, loot toolboxes, these guys are the epitome of non-violence. Well, except for that. Last up is Zuldrak. Despite being good at the start, I do have a little bit of history with this zone. We start off with the Wolvar and the Argent Crusade helping them. Do the Wolvar deserve help? No, because they will trick you into using a water bottle to put out fire. We have put out fire before, yes, but this fire for some reason counts as an NPC, and so gives you credit. This was where Attempt 3 died. Why is it an NPC? Absolutely no idea. I shouldn't hate too much though, as the Argent Crusade are nice blokes here, asking us to find their friends, find some junk, and give out parachutes. Oh, and this giant guy here, you'd expect him to ask so nicely. Our last major quest hub here is the Argent Stand, namely the Patrol quest, where you visit 4 different camps and do a quest for each. Each of these quests themselves reward no experience, but the final combo quest does, and along the way there is the 3rd camp where having a number of proper quests we can work through as well. So we finish here just shy of 83. While we can't push onwards with the main storyline in this area, the Trolls, we can collect some raptor eggs around Gundrak before we head in for our final dungeon quest. Northrend feels like the end of the first half of the challenge. We've had our last full storyline, our final dungeon quest, and going onwards we will have new methods to gain experience. We end Northrend at 63 after 17 hours and 29 minutes. Now, with each continent getting better than the last, you may expect things to get better. Well, no. When I mentioned a while ago about the Cataclysm style of questing, well, funnily enough, all of the Cata zones are like that. Case in point, Vashir, where, maybe with some speeding up, I could probably fit in all of the quests you can do. Not to mention, only 2 of the 5 zones have fast travel back to Stormwind, and our Hearthstone cooldown is not good enough to carry that. Still, we do one of the fast travel zones, Deepholm. Why not Mount Hyjal? You'll see. For now, Deepholm consists of just 4 quests. Cataclysm really is that limited. Luckily though, Cataclysm shares a leveling bracket with my personal favourite continent for this challenge, and perhaps the second best, Pandaria. What makes this place so great? Well, look at it. It's bright, picturesque, and it's the start of the treasure system. Sure, each zone may only have somewhere from 2 to 6 treasures, but they reward a lot of experience and a lot of gold. At the start of Pandaria we have less than 900 gold. By the end we'll have much more. On top of that, Pandaria also reverts back to Northrend style of questing. A few major storylines, but plenty of side quests, and side quests tend to be a bit better for us. Now, I won't go through every treasure, but what about the quests? Well, we start in the Jade Forest, and like before, it's a strong first showing. The Cloud Serpents in the east, and an orchard in the west, but we're going to leave the orchard for now, and hang out at the best hub in the continent, the monastery. We get to collect fruit, have a banquet, beat up students, beat up more students, do some kicks unlike whatever anyone else is doing, stand still for 2 minutes while practicing our healing, collect some sticks, collect some pollen, and collect some brew. Oh boy, what a great hub. Side note, this is the last time we'll ever need to attack NPCs for a quest. So where to next? Well, because of our level we have the option to break from the usually inefficient route and make it quicker. We aren't going to be bound by zone order anymore. That said, we're meeting up with Chen to the start of the Valley of the Four Winds. We will be back for the rest, however, but first we're going to head north to the Veiled Stairs, looting some stolen supplies, and head to Kunlai. Kunlai is the zone with the largest number of treasures, and it has a fair number of quests to boot. There is no major storyline throughout the zone, so you actually get to visit most quest hubs, and while not all of them have something, most do, and a couple at that. After the starting village, we head east to the Jinyu for 4 solid quests, then up north, ship in the Yak Wash to meet the Grummels. We pop in to see Anduin at the temple, but we can't do his quest. Well, with flying, who needs the gate open to the Vale anyway? Next up is more Grummels, this time in a Sprite Cave, and there is a concern. One quest has you rescue Grummels, but these guys like to fight. This isn't the same as an escort, and I've got burnt by this before, so we ignore that quest and just go for the supplies before resuming our treasure hunt in the mountains. This brings us to another Grummel camp, and these little guys really do seem like our lucky do, as they have us collect berries, mark poop, and there's even a treasure here, all from the safety of our flight form. Overall, Kunlai has been pretty good, but it's time to head south. Doing a quick quest with some Pandaren, our next stop is the Shrine of the 7 Stars. Along the way, since we are level 85, we pick up a quest from Chromie. We can't actually use her Time Beast yet. Weirdly, the item requires level 90, even though the quest is 85, but I guess they never updated the item when they merged the 2 leveling brackets. At the shrine, we have a couple of other endgame quests to pick up, but for now, we're leaving Pandaria and returning to Cataclysm. Now we are past 85, we pick up the endgame quest to talk to Thrall in Mount Hyjal and begin that zone. Sure, there is only one real quest here besides the turn-ins, but Thrall capture is a nice batch of experience and it gives us a fast teleport to Oldham. In Oldham, we don't rescue Thrall, but we do hit level 90 before really getting started. You know the drill though, we keep on going, even if the EXP slows down. As with most of the Kata zones, there are at least a couple of intro quests we can do here, like burning straw and collecting armour. Normally collecting armour means killing people, but I guess the Tolvir are just kind enough to leave them lying around for some bird to pick up. With Oldham and our 4 Kata zone done, it's Hearthstone and back to the Mage Tower, and then to Pandaria to Jade Forest. Last time in Pandaria we did the north and east, now we're going to do the south, Krasarang Wilds, via the orchard in the Jade Forest that has us put out fires that don't count as NPC kills. Krasarang itself has Varian's arrival quest to turn in, but it's more limited in quests than what we've done so far, with just a few quests in the Zoo's Watch and releasing the elves later on. With that done, we're back to the Valley of the Four Winds, where we have 2 good quest hubs to help us through. First up is collecting toads and flowers before whatever happens now happens, and this is pretty much the starting course because one of the most memorable bits of Mr. Pandaria is up next. The farm. This little plot of land has a nice introductory questline of 5 quests, as we learn how to grow and cultivate, all the while rewarded a nice full experience amount of quests. Add to that the visit to the Silk Workshop, and the valley joins the good zones like Kunlai and Jade Forest. It may be the end of the valley, but it's a great way to finish, as I said before. Pandaria is my favourite leveling region for this, not the best, but my favourite. Alas, the next zones are not quite as productive. Until it was recently fixed, Dread Waste had been impossible to start since 8.3, but now we can complete a single solitary quest. Everything is tied to the Claxi, and without them, you can go nowhere. Town Long is a little better, but not by much. A couple of quests in the southeast, a couple in the west, and a fair few treasures, one of which... could I find it? Nope, not at all. Most treasures spawn in a single location, but 2 in Town Long have multiple spawning locations. That is the leveling zones done, but is Pandaria done? Not quite, as we have the endgame to start now. While we are in Town Long, we take a ride with Risa and head to the Isle of Thunder. There is a weekly quest we could do here, but that was how Attempt 4 ended. The crit build area of the island would have you kill critters if you step on them, so that is why, if you've ever seen me hesitant to stand near a critter, you know why now. Nope, the only quest is visiting the Shadowpan before we return to Stormwind. Last up in the Catazones is the Twilight Highlands. Perhaps the only Catazones that has quests available even after not completing the opening storyline. The Wild Hammer Dwarfs want beer and food, and well, we oblige. After that, just before the 20-hour mark, we finally use Crimey's timepiece and head to our last Pandaria zone, the Timeless Isle. While you might not think of the Timeless Isle as a leveling zone, it actually has a large number of quests to do, starting with exploring the island and gathering coins. How do we gather coins? Well, we head up to the elite area and open the largest chests, each guaranteeing epic items. Follow on from more collection and clicking, including a shrine I'm always terrified will explode and kill a critter. We find a very specific one for that reason. Eventually, we are done with the level 80 to 90 experience, ending at level 93 at just shy of 20 hours and 15 minutes. Next up is Warlords of Draenor, and needless to say, Khadgar's introductory quests won't get us far. Luckily, this is what speedrunners do to get to Draenor. This cave in the Timeless Isle. Simply sit on the chair, click on the fire, and boom, we are in Draenor. What a place it will be. Pandaria had at best 6 treasures per zone. Draenor boasts over 30 in every zone. Welcome to the best expansion for this experience. Alas, that experience is generally not quests. We'll cover what we can, but treasures do most of the heavy lifting here. Let's talk about the route though, as we have some important treasures and timings to meet, while being efficient. I start off with a mistake and head south to do the starting quests, but don't actually do them. What I should have done, and we do now, is go east. That means our first stop is Northern Gorgon's treasures and a quest with a boar on our way to Frostfire Ridge. Of course, the Horde starting area is barren of quests, but not treasures. This is likely to be a good time to thank Wowhead for all the treasure maps. They are a big help, and having done these 3 times by this attempt, I think I'm starting to get the hang of the quickest route. On top of that, the gold is coming in fast, and based on how much we are flying, we really need that extra flight speed. Actually 95, we head south to Talador, collecting more treasures in Gorgrond along the way. We actually do Talador in sections. This is the first part covering the north. Here we manage the only building we can create, a mage tower, to open up a few quests with the Kirin tool. Alas, our mage ally is very dangerous. While I haven't recorded a kill from her, she still stares me every time we do her 2 quests. You'll understand my fear soon. For now, we carry on with the northern treasures and a buried collection quest, and finally we make it to 4,500 gold just over 21 hours in. What is so special about 4,500 gold? Well, 38 levels to go, 11 hours and 15 minutes to go, we gained Flying Rank 1. Now we can finally purchase Flying Rank 2, and oh, is it so glorious. We basically live in flight form for this challenge. Time to take 280 speed for a spin, like on our way back. There's only one way to Draenor, the Timeless Isle, so we play Fatigue Chicken to make use of our flying. Back on Draenor, now we get started with Gorgon's quests, where we actually discover some survivors, or don't, and manage to rescue Thalin without actually rescuing him, but well, hey, here he is, safe and sound. Finishing off the Gorgon treasures, we head to Shadowmoon Valley, where we immediately make the Alliance Command regret handing control of an unbuilt garrison to someone who has never killed anyone and refuses to clear out the Ravens. Rather than do the rest of Shadowmoon Valley, we're picking one very specific treasure before we head to Spice of Iraq, That treasure is the Ashes, an item that gives resident experience when used, but only when used level 99 or below, and we are level 98, so we're getting close. That's the other reason we're doing Spires now, because it has so many offerings of the Raven Mother that operate the same way. You'd think I'd be better at remembering their locations now, but, well, some of them always still seem to elude me. As for quests in Spires, like all zones, it's really just the intro. A few zones here, but the treasures more than make up for it. We get level 100 in the Spires, but we still have many zones left to go. 2.5 to be precise. On the way to Nagrand, we finish off the last in Talador, including rescuing some P-Chicks. Now, in Nagrand, we have likely the largest number of quests we can get started with, as well as a huge amount of treasures. Even more quests follow with the Seat of the Elements and the Arena, combined with, well, of course, many treasures, including our 4th bag. Our first bag since level 10. Nagrand is a great zone, if not a little long. It's back to Shadowmoon Valley to finish that, including the Shadowmoon Exile quest in the north, before we venture to Tanan Jungle. Along the way, we reach level 105, 5 levels over the max for Draenor, so now is a good time to start talking about leveling experience and scaling. Expansion brackets give full experience until you reach 1 level over its design cap, so level 61 for Classic and 101 for Draenor. This doesn't completely drop off the experience, but what you do need to take into account is that as we've got closer to 120, the amount of experience we've needed has gone up, which means effectively the experience from before has not actually been worth that much looking at it at this precise moment. Like with those quests we did all the way back, now those quests would only be worth minuscule experience. However, we are approaching the final 2 expansions, with Legion upcoming, the hardest expansion. We have spent 3.5 hours in Draenor, and while its experience has dropped off, it has made us all the way to 105, that is halfway through Legion. This is a good lead that we'll have to ride. Speaking of riding, 310% speed is here, much quicker than we got the 280% speed. So I said Legion was the hardest expansion. Why is that? Well, for starters, its treasures rarely give experience. It has bonus objectives we can do, and more quests that aren't bound to major storylines like Draenor, but its hardest aspect is just the raw experience required. Needless to say, one storyline we cannot complete is our Ord Hall, so no artifact weapon for us. Legion is built around 4 zones, and we start with the worst, Azuna. There's a few bonus objective areas you might think we could do, but clickable items don't actually respawn, and they don't reach 100% on their own, so we have to settle for the starting quest with the Demon Hunters, Ted Marius and their imp, along with, well, the non-pirates in the southeast. Azuna gets us 1 level to 106. Bel-Sharar is much better, starting with the Moonkins in the south before starting with the Archdruids. Along the way we have 2 bonus objective areas we can complete. There is a third, but these sprites are such pain, it's not worth my sanity. We do 1 quest here and that's enough. Other side quests include Furbolg in the east and playing as a Wisp, before we meet with the Gilneans in Bravensbrück. Here we get to help out Grandma kill some undead birds. That's her killing them, not us. 1 last bonus objective area up north and we end Bel-Sharar at 108. High Mountain has some of the weakest starting quests, but luckily a lot of side quests. Along the way we can at last do a single quest with Hemmick Nessingwary, driving out hunters. We can help out Muzi, the baby Tauren, and there's even quests hidden in the mountain pass you can avoid nowadays, just you fly, but hey, we're not avoiding any quests. Now, you might think, when is she going to come to more failed attempts? Well, here it was, attempt 6 is failure. Not 5, that's later, but 6, I actually still have no idea how they failed. It's a kill that was marked as unidentified, which happened to be the same NPC type as the fires in Zoldrak, so I assume it happened somewhere around Stryhorn, which is why we're staying way away from that area. Instead, we'll hang up in the north, quest with Murky in the bonus objective area. 1 last quest to escort Muzi's Grand Moose, and we end at 109. The last zone is Stormheim, and it's another weaker zone. Luckily, we had the head start from Draenor, so we start with bonus objectives to, I guess, not kill whelps? Well, they don't seem to count in the stats window, so we carry on to 110. All of our quests are mainly in the east, that being Tidestrawn Harbour and the dapper Murloc Sir Finley Murgleton, who wants boxes. Murlocs, it seems, are also non-violent. The last area I realised I made a mistake, as the bonus objective areas stopped giving experience at 110. So what I should have done is started here and finished in Azuna. Hopefully that loss of experience won't come back to haunt us. With that done, it's time for the endgame, and Legion has a fair few, but it's all spread out. We start off with the only random quest we can get in Suramar, saving some hippogriffs. Dalaran is where a lot gets started. Starting quests for Suramar, Obliterum, Helheim and the Broken Shore. Suramar ends before it really gets started, so we head to the Broken Shore, do the exploration quests and spend longer underwater than I should have done to find Anduin's locket. Then it's back to Stormheim to hand in Odin's quest before another trip to Dalaran to pick up Argus' storyline. That means we are back to Stormwind because we can get to Argus and do a couple of quests there. Now, this would also be the time to turn in Anduin's locket, but I forgot, and we will suffer for it, because rather than do Argus, we start on BFA, head to Silithus and do the pre-patch BFA quests, and, help out Magni, get our necklace and all that good stuff. Back to Stormwind again, and now we head to Argus, completing 2 quests there and finishing Legion at 101. We've spent every expansion working towards putting levels in the bank, reaching 5 over for Draenor, but now it's down to just 1, a head start for Battle for Azeroth. Being the last expansion, it's designed to require the most experience and time, so let's get on with the home stretch, starting 25.5 hours in, 4.5 hours the target for BFA. Intro quests out of the way, we start off with Tiragard Sound and head south. Start off with the story quests, but as expected, those stall pretty quickly, but luckily Kul Tiras has plenty of side quests. In the southern area, we have quests from the gnomes, hunters, castaways, miners, Proudmoore loyalists, not to mention all the treasures and the gnomish resort bonus area. Man, gnomes are so good, can they get us to 120? Next up is the north of the zone, starting off with the lumber mill. Few quests here, helping animals, plants and collecting axes. Do we rescue the lumberjacks, however? Never again. Failure 5 came here, and it scarred me for life. As these lumberjacks, they will fight for you, and any kills they perform count as yours. A horrible way to end, so close. Nope, we leave them tied up and move along. Moving along, that is, to help out another gnome at the Explorers League, collect shells, and help free some sailors. We're going to help the Roughnecks and end up at Angle Point, along with the requisite bonus objective areas and treasures. Along the way, I choose some braces as a gear reward because, well, actually there's very little gear outside of heirlooms, and well, later on we're going to be offered braces a lot. In fact, every quest that reward items rewards you braces that we can do. There's also a couple of potential quests I leave, however, shooting down the birds and controlling skeletons. It's been a while since I tested, and the fear is real, no room for mistakes. In Tiragard at 113, 2.5 levels is not bad from a zone, but with only 3 zones it's going to be tight. Drustvar is next, so how will it perform? Well, we start off in the northeast, and after playing Wickerman for a bit, we are faced with a painful but doable bonus objective area involving more bees than one elf needs. It's doable because everything respawns, something not found with Drustvar's other bonus objective areas. After that, we are heading south, down the east of Drustvar. I tend to treat Drustvar in 2 halves, separated by the mountain range. So next stop is helping the Young Explorers League, a pretty good question as we can complete most of it, before we move to Full Haven to clear up the bonus objective area and do as much as we can at the start. Next up in the far south, we have a fairly good hub involving the Thornspeakers where we destroy some cairns and save some animals. And saving animals is what this run is really all about. We're here to help, not hurt. Eastern Drustvar is fairly good on the side quests. We have the coastal harbour where we have some men transformed into pigs, collect some flowers in a graveyard and help out fishermen with fishing and fish carving, desperately avoiding the seagulls. What isn't fine are the 2 bonus objective areas that lack enough clickables to complete. Lastly on this side we have yet another bonus objective area with the adorable Abby, as well as help her out, well except her tail party. The real downside of Drustvar is how full of flying enemies it is. Normally the bird form keeps us safe, but here we have to do a lot of dodging, there's a lot of flying enemies. Alas, the west of Drustvar is not quite so good, at least for quests. Plenty of chests, but most of the areas are off limits without the main storyline. There is some anti-pirate work we can do in the Bones Objective area in the north and west, and yet another annoying quest with the fungal folk and their flying spores. Ultimately, Drustvar was okay. We finished the zone and session at 27 hours and 15 minutes. Time-wise it is looking okay, but we ended Drustvar at 115 and 77%. With only one full leveling zone left, the others are getting under 3 levels, it's not looking good. Start of the next streaming session and I declare this will be the final one. We are getting to 120 no matter how long it takes. Starting with, well, not Stormsong Valley, as first we have to go to the monastery, and that's actually as far as we can get with the main storyline, not even reaching Stormsong Valley. Luckily, of the 8 major story points in Stormsong, only 4 are tied to the main Tide Sage story arc. The rest we can start right away, so we begin a loop of the zone. The Horde are up first, where we blow up NPC demolishers that luckily don't count as kill, and nor do these fires. You can tell I'm still bitter. Next we help out farmers with grain and some mementos, before taking the fight to the quill balls. Totems. Next up is a quaint hamlet of Millstone, where we rescue sheep and shoot guns at rats. It's only a stun gun thankfully. If only the rest of the coast was as good, the Naga quest chain leading to the keep is entirely off limits because the damn Naga locked their cages and we can't get through. Well, the soldiers may not do much, but some folks along the coast do, the Tortolan. Luckily, most of the quests to progress the story here are actually safe for us, so we clean up some bills, rescue some scrolls before moving on to one of the most stressful diving trips I've ever done, trying to find enough seaweed without killing anything. We also hand in all the scrolls from our treasures to get the only Azurite piece we can acquire outside of Magni's starting piece. Next up is Deadwash, where we rescue prisoners, and well, that's actually it. So it's back to the Horde as we find some weapons they left lying around, and a big cannon. Why not, as long as we don't have to be the ones to fire it. After some beekeeping, Stormsong is done, so things are looking bad. 28 hours in, but with 2.5 levels left to go. Stormsong really struggles from a lack of Bones Objective areas. I check on my test character to find out the quest I skipped in Tiragard was safe, so we go there and knock those out. We have one last stop for quests, the War Campaign. We go to Zuldazar, as we only get one choice, and it has the most number of quests available to us. 3 in fact. Alas, these are the only quests available to non-match level characters for the Alliance on this continent. It can't even bring us to 118, so we are out of quests. Luckily, Zuldazar does have treasures. The bad news, the repeatable unnamed chests reward no experience on this continent, only the static named ones. We clear out Zuldazar's and Nazmir's before finishing off Vol'dun and this continent at 119, not helped by the fact that everything outside of the question areas is 120 and therefore sees right through our stealth. We are out of experience now except for one source, the only repeatable source we have, chests. That means it's scouring the continent of Kol Tiras. At this time I wasn't aware they were daily based, but I did eventually realise when I saw how empty Stormsong was and yet how full Drustvar was, as we had of course cleared it the previous day. That bunch of chests takes us half the way, but we still need more. Now I am flying around everywhere, taking any exploration experience I can get, cheering when I discover a treasure not counted for the achievement, and crying when the treasure chests in Freehold don't reward any experience. Time is becoming meaningless now. We are 3/4 of the way there, but the treasure chests are feeling spent. We passed the 30-hour mark and it feels like the first chest we found in minutes. I'm feeling like we need to give up and come back when the chests are reset. It was a goal, but one I didn't think we could do. That is, until I realise there is one more zone we can try. There will be no quests, but what about chests? It's time for the gnomes to come through. We're going to Mechagon. Now, Mechagon's chests are weird. They do work, as does exploring, but they don't show up on the minimap, nor do they contain any spare parts. You can tell they clearly weren't meant to be opened by us. We look up into the details of how they work and where they are, borrowing some scripts from Wowhead and work through each one in turn. They aren't easy to track, but eventually we get to one left and it's eluding me. 4 spawn locations and I just can't find it. I checked the script, we're missing one in the future and one here. Full map time, we need it. Finally, at 30 hours, 30 minutes and 41 seconds in, we find it, open it, and the glorious 120 pops up. We've done it. 120 levels, 0 professions, 0 pet battles, and most importantly, 0 kills. I've killed server first raid bosses, server first challenge mode, pushed some good mythic keys, but this is something else, something special. Across 7 attempts, totaling over 150 hours, Carry Huddles, the druid who abhors killing, has reached 120. What a swan song to BFA and how WoW's leveling experience has been before Shadowlands. Am I going to do it in Shadowlands pre-patch? You bet. Maybe with another class. But for now, I'm going to check out a new mod based on all the pieces of gear you can acquire with these restrictions. If you like the challenge, I intend to do many more in Shadowlands, so consider subscribing and liking. Those simple clicks make a massive difference for a little channel like mine. Maybe you'll enjoy my other niche content. And if you really want niche, check out the entire raw footage in the description if you want to check that I didn't cheat. It is over 30 hours long, remember. I personally wouldn't look at it, but you're free to. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.